what is going on, everybody? Hope everybody's enjoying their week so far. And we are back with another edition of SEC Talk, plus the national talk as well, since we are in the postseason as we speak. But we had our first round of action of college football playoff games. We had two great games to lead us off with Texas A&M and Miami and Alabama and Oklahoma, and two dud games. But I think that's all what we about expected, especially with the G5 teams. We'll definitely get into that discussion. If the playoff format and seeding should be changed, but good to have some postseason. The bowl mania continues to roll on. I know for my personal self, it's kind of been a not so great a bowl mania performance. There's been some teams that I expected that were going to just dominate some of their opponents. We had Washington State take down Utah State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. We'll have more bowl games continuing on this week as we are just a couple of days from Christmas. We'll have a couple more SEC teams with Missouri and LSU in action. And then I know that heading into the new year, we'll have some more SEC teams. So all of our, 13 or plus or so SEC teams that are in this bowl slate will get underway there. So, Wade, I know that you had an eventful weekend going back to South Carolina. Probably not too much football, but I don't think you really missed too much.
No, I think the way the TV schedule worked out, I caught the good ones. But yeah, great weekend back home. Got to see a lot of family members and some good friends. So if you're watching, I thoroughly enjoyed it and tried to recruit some viewership because we were talking about the show as we were watching some of the games. So they might have a little sneak peek about what I got to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the show, I wanted to bring this up a couple of weeks back. I want to appreciate everybody for following for the past couple of days. We are now up to 1.1K followers on Facebook, so we appreciate everybody that's tuned in, for this year, or a newcomer or an old comer who's been listening to the show ever since we first started this one in 2016. Looking to get a big year when we reach 10 years next year, heading into the 2026 season. I know with the 9-game schedule, we're definitely looking forward to next season. So I definitely appreciate everybody for following and joining along both on Facebook and on YouTube. All right, all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our games. Before we get into our games, if you have any questions pertaining to SEC football, just football in general, maybe ask a couple of questions. Should the G5 be a representative in the 12-team field, or should the playoff be expanded? Let me know your thoughts on that. We will definitely get into the discussion once we look back at this bracket. But feel free to leave us a comment. We will get it to at the end of the Hot Topic segment. So like I mentioned, we're live both on Facebook and on YouTube. So I'm going to monitor both of the chats. And if you have any comments, we will get to it at the end of the show. All right. We do have some recaps as we have in the past. I know that we had a week off. There's really no games to really talk about. But the first one was our SEC showdown that kicked things off on Friday night. Number 9 seed Alabama and number 8 seed Oklahoma. We did talk about this was one of two rematches this weekend in the first round of the playoff. And Alabama storms back from being down 17-0. Looks like the Sooners we're going to go to 3-0 overall on Alabama ever since Oklahoma joined the SEC. But Alabama, it evaporated very quickly. Alabama was able to get their first touchdown after Oklahoma went up 17-0. Ty Simpson had a couple of key throws, touchdown to Jeremy Bernard, who has been the wide receiver one for the Crimson Tide, feels like the majority of the season. And then after that, Oklahoma went 3 and out, elected to punt. The punter ended up dropping the ball. Alabama did block it, and Alabama was settled for a field goal. And then literally the drive after that, John Mateer threw probably one of the worst picks that I've seen on the weekend.
What in the world was that?
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell he was looking to. The DB was pretty much there. It was an easy pick 6. And boom, just like that, 17-17 going into the half. And Alabama did not look back after that as they were able to storm away in this one. So after Oklahoma dominated the first half, Alabama dominated the second half as Oklahoma's offense looked entirely lost. Isaiah Satenga, one of their star wide receivers, was really held in check. Blaylock didn't really have that too many bigger runs. The key in this one, like I mentioned, was Alabama run game getting going, especially with Jam Miller returning for this game. But it was actually the backup running back. He did the same thing in Tuscaloosa in their matchup. He did have a key touchdown, had over 60 yards rushing. You didn't really see too much of Ryan Williams in this game, but that's been really the tale of the season. But Ty Simpson, a very slow start. That crowd was definitely electric at the start of that game. But Alabama's defense, you got to give credit to them. I mean, John Mateer was absolutely slicing and dicing the secondary. But Kalen DeBoer and that defensive staff had really a game plan as Alabama wins this one 34-24. They will now head to the Rose Bowl to face off against the number 1 overall seed in this field of 12, the Indiana Hoosiers. But definitely overall disappointment for Oklahoma, especially with having a 17-0 lead. But Alabama, a lot of doubters, just wondering if Alabama should even be in this field of 12, especially with the 3 losses and getting drubbed by Georgia. And they just haven't really looked like themselves for the past month. I mean, the last game that they really looked like themselves was that Tennessee win. But really outside of that, it hasn't really been too pretty for the Crimson Tide. It wasn't pretty in the first half, but in the second half, that's exactly what we were looking for this Alabama team. So overall thoughts, Wade. I know that Oklahoma, very disappointment outcome. Alabama, though, moves on.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama looked lifeless at first, and Ty Simpson continued to struggle. And then all of a sudden, I mean, it was like the Ty Simpson that we saw, weeks 1 through 5 maybe. He looked really good in the second half. Jeremy Bernard stepped it up and made a big play down the stretch after having a pretty critical drop. Actually, a lot more offense in this one than we.
Yeah, I know. That was like one of our higher scoring games of the week was this one.
I know, and Oklahoma, as you mentioned, saw the emergence of a few offensive weapons we didn't think they had, including a second receiver and Burks.
He was a stud.
So if they can figure out how to get that talent out of Mateer, I think this team does return a lot of talent. I think that they were ahead of schedule. So it's not all down in the dumps for Oklahoma, but ultimately, it's definitely disappointing to let this one against Alabama slip. And this is kind of the downfall of having a playoff rematch. I mean, if you're Oklahoma, you're like, dang, we handled business 2 times against these guys. I know one of them was last season, but, no doubt Oklahoma's had Alabama's number except for the time that it really matters. And so it goes. Alabama is in a familiar spot now, advancing in the playoffs. So I'm sure Indiana is not too thrilled about it either. But maybe Kurt Cignetti is, because he coached at Alabama.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be like a very big game in the Rose Bowl. It's the 100th Rose Bowl. So Alabama, Indiana, I cannot wait for that here in the next coming days there. But Oklahoma, I think that the story of their season, they had a national championship winning defense, but too many inconsistencies on the offense, especially in games like the LSU game, the Auburn game at times. They had some struggles, but John Mateer looked like himself, before that thumb surgery that he had, really played bad. It feels like for the past month or so, just didn't really find out, that bye week, quote unquote, that Oklahoma had heading into this one. You saw it in the first half, but Kane Womack and company was able to really dice up a game plan in the second half. So Alabama moves on. Oklahoma, I think that overall, it's not really a disappointing season for Oklahoma. Obviously, you want to win the national championship every single year, but I just don't think that many people had Oklahoma in the college football playoff, especially with a gauntlet of a schedule that they had. So I think it was an overall win for Brent Venables in this team. Like you mentioned, they're going to return a lot of talent on the offense and defense. So this is going to be a team, I think it's going to be right back in the playoff discussion, especially if we do end up expanding to 16 next season. But I just think that Oklahoma will be one of our teams that we'll be talking about next preseason on a team that could get back to the 12-team field. All right, let's move on to our next game now, to our Saturday games. This one was at 11 a.m. Well, maybe, they were doing something right, because this is not really too much action in this game between number 10 seed Miami and number 7 seed Texas A&M. The score, yep, that is correct. That is not a typo. 10-3, and it was 0-0 heading into the half. So if you missed the first half, well, you didn't really miss too much. Just a lot of missed field goals. It was pretty much a wind tunnel at Kyle Field. The wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour, and Texas A&M, a team that always struggles during the season kicking wise. You saw that in the first half. They were able to make a field goal to get it to 3-3. Miami, like I mentioned, was able to get on the board first with a field goal of their own, and then Miami with a lone touchdown by one of the best freshmen in the country, as Miami went up 10-3. And then Texas A&M, you did see Marcel Reed in that offense have one of the best drives of the day. They were able to get it down into first and goal. They had a couple of opportunities, and Marcel Reed with a very bad throw. But Marcel Reed overall this game, very bad throws, decision-making. He had 2 interceptions in this game. The guys that stepped up, like Casey Concepcion, I mean, he had 45 total yards. It was actually Mario Craver being the lead receiver. You did see Le'Veon Moss back, and then he got hurt. It's just been the story of his season. But Reuben Owens wasn't able to do too much, and Texas A&M pretty much their offense turned into one-dimensional. Miami's D-line is honestly one of the best in the nation, led by Ruben Bain. Miami's offensive line, too, put some work against his Texas A&M defensive line as Mark Fletcher sliced and diced this defense with over 170 yards rushing. So one of the defensive games in this one, it wasn't really too pretty on both sides. I mean, Carson Beck only threw like 103 passing yards. So overall, I mean, it was a very sloppy game on both sides, but it is actually Miami getting the win on the road in a very hostile crowd as Texas A&M. I mean, this is now back-to-back offensive performances where Marcel Reed did not perform to his expectations. So very disappointing finish, especially the way that A&M season started. I mean, they were 11-0, and then you go on a 2-game losing streak. You lose to their arch rival on the road in Austin, and everything's set up for you. You're at Kyle Field. I know Miami has one of the best defenses in the country, but if you ask them, you hold them to 10, 99 times out of 100, you'd think that Texas A&M would be able to win that game. And offense was very disappointing, especially with Colin Klein's final game being the offense coordinator before he heads up to Kansas State. So overall, disappointing finish for Texas A&M.
Absolutely. I mean, just this team just looked like a shell of itself the last I guess really month of the season, I would say. Yeah. I know that they didn't lose all of those games, but they certainly didn't look good against South Carolina for a half. They got shut out, and Marcel Reed couldn't move the football. And then he had the best half of football in his life, and they won. And then just really sluggish performances, like you said, against Texas and Miami. A little bit of a tough draw here, but I mean, come on. We advocated for this Aggie team to be the 5 seed all week on this show. Yep. And I think JMU would have beat them. I mean, they just did not live up to expectations. The Miami defense is good, yes, but we saw Louisville rack up a lot of yards on them. We saw Georgia Tech, who they lost to as well? I don't know, but
they lost to SMU in overtime.
Yeah, SMU obviously put up a lot of points on them. I mean, this was not the Da Vinci Code here to crack this defense. There was ways to do it. They just couldn't do it. And honestly, A&M's built really well for the conditions because you do have a mobile quarterback and you do have a 2-headed monster at running back and shifty receivers. Switch it up, run some jet sweeps, keep it close to the line of scrimmage. I don't know, just a really dismal showing here. Amazing showing for Mark Fletcher. I mean, he burst on the scene. He could be kind of that college football playoff hero if he gets hot. And, this offense literally does run through him. So that's an interesting storyline going forward. For A&M, I mean, all that optimism behind Coach Elko and for this program, I mean, I feel like we're going to enter next season with just as much uncertainty about A&M as we have in years past, which is absurd because they were arguably the top team in the country like this time a month ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So Miami, big win for them. Well, treat for them. They get to go play Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. So we'll see how that game goes. They're going to score way more than 10 points if they want to even keep that game close. Now let's move on to our next two games. And I'll be front with you. I don't know how much time we're going to be talking about these games because I think we went about as expected as it should. We go to our next game. It's number 11 seed Tulane going on the road to number 6 seed Ole Miss. We already saw this game 45-10. Pretty much the exact same thing happened. I mean, Ole Miss, they got the ball, 59 seconds, boom, 7-0. Tulane goes 3 and out. Ole Miss gets the ball back, 14-0. And I was like, all right, this game's over. We might as well just go watch like a Christmas movie or something because, I mean, this was pretty much an auto buy for Ole Miss. I mean, Tulane, I get it. I mean, they were the best group of 5 representative. I'm honestly tired of the G5 at this point. Honestly, the G5, make your own damn playoff and let's just get the 12 best teams in here. I'd rather see Notre Dame at Ole Miss or Vandy at Ole Miss. This was just a waste of a spot, to be honest with you. But Ole Miss, I mean, this was about expected. I mean, Ole Miss, you look at your offense, they were way faster than Tulane. Their defensive line is bigger than Tulane's offensive line. I mean, we already saw it in September. We didn't need to see it in a meaningful game like this. I give it to the crowd. I mean, Ole Miss fans stayed even when Ole Miss was beating the snot out of Tulane. But Kawan Lacey, I mean, had the Kawan Lacey game that we expected. Trinidad Chambliss continues to be one of the best storylines in all of college football. And though Ole Miss's defense did give up over 400 yards, I think they are starting. I mean, over the past month, they really played well under Pete Golden's game. But Wade, I think that you and I really predicted this to be not a close game.
Yeah, as much as I wanted to see Tulane perform better, we just kind of knew what was in the cards for the Green Wave. And for Pete Golding, I mean, I think he got this team really fired up. They really didn't skip a beat. I think it'll be interesting to see against Georgia, a team they've already lost to. But, I mean, talent-wise and balance-wise, I mean, I think this is one of the best teams in the country, probably right up there with Ohio State and Indiana in terms of overall balance. So we'll just see if they're able to keep it up against Georgia. But I think there's going to be a lot of Rebels in the Superdome.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that game. And kudos to Ole Miss for not overlooking Tulane. I mean, I think they really brought their A game and were able to just put it on cruise control in the second half.
Yep. So, like you mentioned, Ole Miss punched their ticket to the Sugar Bowl, and with the Tulane loss, John Sumrall no longer has to get 2 phones and 2 jobs. His now attention will be on the Florida Gators, and obviously we'll talk about one of the big pieces that of entering the transfer portal. But that will definitely be something to talk about, the John Sumrall era starting in 2026 in Gainesville. Now let's move on to the last game. We're also not really talk too much about this. I know the score is close, but it really wasn't if you watched the entirety of this game. I mean, it was 34-6 heading into the half. I mean, Oregon, like Ole Miss, started off strong. I mean, it was boom, 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 boom. Couldn't really James Madison couldn't really stop him. Dante Moore played like he did pretty much the majority of the season. Just too many weapons for Oregon. James Madison's offense, is probably the best of the G5s. But their defense just couldn't match the level of Oregon's speed that they have on the outside. 51-34. I mean, if you were a betting man, James Madison did end up covering this one. Oregon was a 24-point favorite against the Dukes. But nonetheless, I mean, nobody's going to be walking into Autzen Stadium and even keep it close. But Oregon's offense continues to roll. They've had some games, the Iowa game that I look at where they struggled. The Washington game, they kind of struggled a little bit at the start. They had some games where their offense hasn't really been cooking. It's definitely nice that Oregon, just flashback to last season where they got boat raced in the Rose Bowl. So I think that if you're an Oregon fan, you honestly, would like to be the number 1 overall seed. But I think it's better for them to just get this game, get some reps in before you have to face off against Texas Tech down there in Miami. But I think just like the Ole Miss and Tulane game, we kind of expected this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the score didn't really reflect the level of victory
let's
here.
Be real. Oregon let
Oregon.
up the gas.
Yeah, and as they should. I mean, this is a marathon. You don't get bonus points for winning 51-6, losing your star player, and then bowing out in the second round. You want to make sure that everybody's healthy and ready to go for the second round. So once they saw it was in their grasp, I mean, I think they started to pull some players. They simplified the offense, tried to get the clock run out. JMU had a couple splash plays towards the end. So not much to say here. I think that Oregon, it's a little concerning to let up 34 points even with some of the backups in, but nonetheless, I think this is still a very good team, and I'm looking forward to their matchup against Texas Tech.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely going to be one of my favorite matchups to watch. So let's get into our pick results. Wade and I, pretty spot on, 3-1 both. We think our one loss was Texas A&M. We all picked Texas A&M, but just a disappointing overall Saturday for the Aggies. And Chet went 1-3. Decided to go for a Tulane upset, and Oklahoma upset just didn't work out in his favor. But I think in the Bowl of Many, he's actually in first place. So I guess it's working out in another spectrum. But let's go on now, dive back into the bracket. So looking at our updated matchups now heading into the second round, this is really where the playoff gets really juicy. Looking at all these matchups. Kick the G5s out of here. This is how all of our matchups should be. So looking at our first one, the 5 versus the 4, you have Oregon versus Texas Tech. Number 9 seed Alabama facing off against number 1 seed Indiana. The Oregon-Texas Tech game is the Orange Bowl in Miami. Alabama, Indiana, and Pasadena in the Rose Bowl. And looking on down the bottom half of the bracket, you have an SEC rematch. Ole Miss, the 6 seed versus number 3 seed Georgia. That is in New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl. Man, that is definitely going to be a lot of fans down there, both Georgia fans and Ole Miss fans. We'll have no trouble traveling down to the Big Easy. And then finally, in the Cotton Bowl down there in Arlington, Texas, we have number 10 seed Miami and number 2 seed Ohio State. So of all these matchups, Wade, what's the matchup that's really standing out to you, out of all these?
Oh man, it gets tough because there's no gimmies from this point on. I mean, I think Oregon Texas Tech is probably going to be the most competitive matchup of the weekend. But I gotta say, I'm an SEC homer. I'm really looking forward to the Ole Miss Georgia rematch. I think bringing it into the Superdome might give Ole Miss just that little bit of competitive edge. I mean, they were so close, and it was in Sanford Stadium in Athens. So I'm curious to see if Ole Miss creates a little bit more of a home field effect, being the closer team. And Georgia just played there last year and lost, so the Dog fans might not be too excited to come back on down to New Orleans. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Yes, I know they don't have Lane Kiffin, but I'm still thinking that Ole Miss is going to bring it.
Yeah, a lot of key storylines. So like you mentioned, only one rematch out of all these. Ole Miss and Georgia is the lone one. Oregon and Texas Tech did play. I feel like a couple of years back, Alabama, Indiana. I don't even know the last time that they played on the gridiron. Then a Miami, Ohio State. Obviously, remember in the early 2000s, Miami probably should have won that national championship, but Ohio State Miami got a phantom pass interference call, and Ohio State ended up winning the national championship. I think that was the 2000 or 2001 national championship. History nerds in the chat, help me out. But this is definitely, I'm very excited for this. Starting off, we'll have one game on the 31st, and then we'll have the rest of the slate, kicking off to 2026. So that is all of our early matchups. We'll dive into all of our preview and picks on next week's show when we get into game week. But I am definitely fired up to watch all these games next week. All right, now let's go on to SEC Fantasy. We did have our first of 3 editions of our SEC Fantasy postseason. So our first edition was the first round playoff games. You had Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Oklahoma, all available to draft. So let's go ahead first. Before we get into our draft, we do have some results. So, Wade, why don't you kick it off with how your team did in the first round of the playoff?
Yeah, my first round guys, up and down. Marcel Reed, his stat line here on SEC Talk, not too bad, 264 yards. Could have been a lot worse for a team that scored 3 points. obviously no touchdowns. But Marcel Reed did keep the ball moving. They just couldn't finish drives for whatever reason, and 2 very costly turnovers. So ends his season with a respectable 264. We'll see him back here next year on SEC Talk, I'm sure. Definitely one of the more talented returning quarterbacks. Quan Lacey, I mean, he got it off very fast against Tulane. I think he had a touchdown on the opening drive. Had like 50 or 60 yards after the first quarter, but Ole Miss got up big. They didn't need him. Obviously, you don't want to wear him out. They got bigger games coming up. So a nice 94 yards for Quan Lacey. And then Satangna, I mean, he just kind of took a back seat to Burks. He really separated himself as the top receiver for Oklahoma. John Mateer was just really off in the second half and didn't have any accuracy on any deep passes or anything like that. So unfortunate result there, just 17 yards here in a playoff showing. And then the Ole Miss defense, I mean, again, that was kind of the risk taking them here. We both kind of figured that Ole Miss would be up big on Tulane, and Tulane got some garbage time yards, but really doesn't tell the whole story there. Unfortunately, I end up in the negatives in the first round here of our playoffs. But I feel like I've picked worse teams.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some worse teams this season. So, yeah, I mean, the Ole Miss defense letting up only 10 points and 421 yards. That's why I didn't take them, because I know there's going to be some garbage time yardage. So that's why I opted out for the Rebels. We will see that decision paid off for me as we go now to my team, Trinidad Chambliss. Out of all the quarterbacks, I mean, you could have picked Ty Simpson, but Trinidad Chambliss was probably the best pick of the bunch, 318 yards. Most of that coming through the pass. He had 30 rushing yards as well. Ruben Owens, running back for Texas A&M. It didn't matter which running back I picked because, well, I was going to get over 30 yards for this one. Yeah, picking 2 Aggies was definitely not the move because I did not have this offense only scoring 3 points. Casey Concepcion, like I mentioned, Mario Craver would have been the better pick. Casey Concepcion had 12 rushing yards, a little bit over 28. I think he had like 28, 30 receiving yards to get him to 45 yards. So okay performances overall by my Aggie duo. And then the Alabama defense, like I mentioned, it was looking very bad in the first half, and then the second half kind of eased up as they only allowed 362 yards. So like I mentioned last week, I was just looking for anything below 400. I was able to get that, and 29 total yards. So
you
we
look
are
like
back.
the A&M Miami game, man.
Yeah, pretty much 29 and negative 43. So Wade, we are back in a familiar spot where one more win would clinch me the overall season for SEC fantasy. Well, we've been stuck on this for about a month. So I think that Wade's team is definitely prone to being in this scenario, but that is what our scenario is. So if I win next week, or say if I win the next week after that, then SEC fantasy is complete for the season. Obviously, we'll continue to draft, but that will be our results. So that is our results for the first round of the playoff. Now we move into our SEC Bowl Games fantasy rules, where this is the rest of our SEC representatives that are in all of the other bowl games. So we will have one more SEC fantasy after this week. That'll focus on our SEC teams in the second round. So we'll have 3 teams available to draft from: Ole Miss and Georgia facing off, and Alabama facing off against Indiana in the Rose Bowl. But the roster size is still the same. That has been the majority of the season. You get a quarterback, 1 running back, a receiver, and a defense. So let's go ahead and start off with our 2 quarterback picks. 2 familiar faces here for SEC fantasy. Joey Aguilar will be Wade's pick, quarterback for Tennessee, in their matchup in the Music City Bowl against Illinois. Diego Pavia and Vandy will face off against Iowa in the ReliaQuest Bowl. So 2 of the higher scoring quarterbacks overall this season. Diego Pavia one was our SEC quarterback of the year. Joey Aguilar was one of our representatives for SEC Fantasy Player of the Year. So talk about Aguilar's matchup against an Illinois defense that I don't like just go back to the Illinois game. That really started Indiana's run when Illinois gave up 63 points. So this Illinois defense has some talent, but going up against a talented offense, they haven't really fared too well.
Yeah, I'm banking on that version of Illinois to show up. This game is in Nashville, the Music City Bowl, so I think Tennessee's going to show out for this one. And Joey Aguilar, I mean, it sounds like this is his final game. He does have an appeal for an extra year of eligibility. Actually, coincidentally, him and Diego Pavia are on the same lawsuit.
Get your waiver picks.
Yeah. Both of these guys started their careers in junior college. So that's the basis of that argument, is that both of these guys and their lawyers don't think that junior college should count towards your Division I eligibility. I don't know that I agree, but they've both been really good performers for us here on SEC Fantasy. So wouldn't mind seeing them back next year, but I would highly doubt we see that. Yeah. So this is kind of the swan song for these fellas, and I think Aguilar gets it done. I mean, he was one of the only quarterbacks to average over 300 yards a game, so I think he's as good a bet as any in this bowl season.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about Diego Pavia, it feels like, the last couple of years. Not even with Vandy whenever New Mexico State pulled off that upset against Auburn. But I just feel like this Vanderbilt team overall has something to prove against Iowa. I mean, no credit to them. I mean, their defense will show up that offense. I just don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with Diego Pavia in this offense. I mean, Diego Pavia, just look at his attitude. I think that he felt that he got snubbed of winning the Heisman, so he's going to show the voters why they were all wrong. So give me Diego Pavia. It would just be a discredit for not one of us to send him off on a high note, get him another SEC fantasy appearance. It feels like he's been on the show more than not. So Diego Pavia and Joey Aguilar, the two quarterbacks from the state of Tennessee, will represent our teams for this bowl season. Now let's move on to our running backs. Rinse and repeat. I mean, Ahmad Hardy has been one of the best SEC running backs. Looks like he will be back for Missouri. He did re-sign a contract. It's pretty much like the NFL 2.0. And Quintrevion Wisner, the running back of Texas, against their bowl game against Michigan. Missouri facing off against Virginia in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. So Ahmad Hardy, this felt like another easy pick, it feels like. I mean, you go from Kawan Lazy to Ahmad Hardy, so you're just going from MVP to MVP.
Yeah, I'm just picking the best of the bunch here, but hey, only the good teams remain in bowl season, so there's a reason for that. So yeah, Ahmad Hardy, I think he could really have a big game against Virginia. The last time we saw Virginia play, their defense got gashed by Duke. Not sure who's going to play at quarterback for Missouri. I mean, it's been rumored that
it's probably going to be Zollers.
Yeah, Zollers, because Perbula is probably heading elsewhere, potentially down, maybe to the group of 5, or potentially a reunion with James Franklin at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Or hell, he could go back to Penn State. I don't think they have a plan either. So lots of options there. But yeah, I mean, regardless of who's throwing the ball, I think Missouri is going to try to run it at least against Virginia. So I think Ahmad Hardy has himself a day. Like you said, he's re-signed, so there's no question about whether he's playing at 100% or saving himself or anything like that.
Yeah, we'll have another year of Ahmad Hardy in SEC Fantasy next season. But Quintrevion Wisner is my pick. I know Michigan's defense has really been solid the whole year. They did just get gashed by Bo Jackson and Ohio State rushing attack. Jackson did have over 100 yards rushing, and Wisner coming off of a 100-yard game against Texas A&M in that rivalry game last week of the regular season, and just the off-field stuff that's happening against Michigan. I just don't know how in tune this team will be. So give me Quintrevion Wisner for Texas, and I think that, like Vandy, Texas also has something to prove, even in a game that they're probably not too thrilled of being in. But Hardy and Wisner will be our two running backs. And now let's go on to our receivers, a.k.a. one tight end and a receiver with Trudez Green of LSU. And a newcomer, Brendan Thompson. I mean, I was trying to pick this guy all season. He's really been solid for Mississippi State's offense. That's really been playing well the majority of the season. So Trudez Green, especially with Aaron Anderson, declaring for the draft, he'll probably have some other guys opting out, maybe Baron Brown. We'll see if Xavier Thomas plays or not. So it could just be the Trade as Green show in the H-Town against Houston.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. We saw Trades Green kind of emerge last year in the Texas Bowl against Baylor. LSU was in a very similar spot. They didn't have Mason Taylor playing at tight end, so Trades Green filled in. They were also a little thin at receiver. So that's when you started to see Trades Green kind of flex out to receiver, and he had himself a really nice game. I think we're in a similar spot here. I do expect Xavier Thomas to play, but I'm not sure about the rest of the bunch. Interestingly enough, I saw Nick Anderson was practicing. Did he not tear his ACL?
I thought he did.
I guess it was a sprain or something, but I would expect a lot of Trades Green. I mean, Houston's been a good bunch this year. They're actually favored in this game, and they're ranked. A little bit of an under-radar team. We'll talk about it in a bit, but I don't think they have any athletes like Trades Green on their defense. So I'm kind of going with the mismatch, there in size. And I think that getting Trades Green back to LSU is like at the top of Lane Kiffin's priorities. So what a better way to do it than to start showcasing his talent now and, show him that this is where he wants to be next year. So I think it's a sneaky good pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with Brennan Thompson in his matchup in the Mayo Bowl against Wake Forest. Now, Wake Forest, an underrated team in the ACC. They did get to 8 wins, but that defense, the Georgia Tech game, a couple other ACC games, they have been able to get up some points. And I do expect Kamario Taylor to get the start at the quarterback. I think that Blake Shapen's pretty much kicked to the curb. At this point in this offense, I think they're going to be looking for the future, especially using these 16 bowl practices that State is getting. Very big that Mississippi State, even with 5-7 record, they get to a bowl appearance. That's definitely going to be big for the future of them. But Brennan Thompson has been the wide receiver one, no question, for this offense, and his elite speed against his Wake Forest secondary. He could get some big plays in what could be a high-scoring shootout in Charlotte. Now let's move on to our two defenses. We have the Vandy defense and the Texas defense, probably the two best defenses that you can get on the slate. So how do you feel about Vandy's defense going against Iowa's offense? It hasn't really shown too much.
Hey, look, anytime you can pick on Iowa's offense, I think you take it.
I feel like this is like a every year thing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa's always a good bowl team, though. And they've terrorized the SEC in that Outback Bowl. Yep. This year it's the ReliaQuest Bowl, or Rate.com Bowl, whatever it is. So, I mean, look, this might backfire. We've seen Vanderbilt getting some shootouts. They've let bad offenses like Auburn rack up a lot of points on them. But I think second to your pick, this was one of the better options of the weekend. Can't really trust a team like Tennessee or you could have gone LSU, I guess, but I felt pretty good about
all the opt-outs.
Yeah,
but still, they saw some talent on defense.
Yeah, so rocking with the Doors, but I like your pick in Texas. So obviously a lot of turmoil up in Michigan. We don't know how they're going to show out for this game. If Texas has got their heads in it, I think they'll look pretty good. And
Texas defense down the stretch played very solidly in their win streak. So I mean, this felt like a give, and I gave a look for Vandy just because they're playing Iowa. You do bring up a good point. Iowa, just like they are like. Their offense just doesn't know what to do for 12 games, but damn well when they get to the freaking Outback Bowl or the Music City, they'll turn it on.
Maybe they need the defrost. It's too tough for them to play up north all year.
Yeah, that's true. But they'll get a road trip down there to Tampa Bay. But I'm just going to go with Texas defense. Like you mentioned, there's not too many other options that I feel comfortable on. With all the turmoil, who's going to be their next Michigan coach? And obviously, even with that, Michigan's offense has been terrible in some of these games. Just look at what Oklahoma's defense was able to do to them. Bryce Underwood has been off and on during his freshman season. I mean, Justice Haynes has pretty much been the lone bright spot. Don't know if he's going to play in this one because he has NFL draft aspirations. So I just think overall Texas defense will come to play. I think that game will not even be close because Texas is going to want to put a hurt on the Michigan Wolverines because they already lost to their rival in Ohio State to start the season, and this is a team that doesn't want to go 0-2 versus the Big Ten. All right, so that's our SEC fantasy, postseason roster for the rest of our bowl games. Like I mentioned, we will get back to another SEC fantasy edition with our second round of our college football playoff games. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our week of December 22 SEC bowl games. I didn't really know what to call this segment, so I just call it the week of 12-22 SEC bowl games. There's only 2 SEC representatives in bowl games this week. There'll be more for the rest of that. We will knock out all the rest of the SEC bowl games along with the college football playoff quarterfinals. So we will definitely have a stacked show for next week. But let's go ahead and dive into our leadoff on Saturday afternoon. Number 19, Virginia versus Missouri, down there in sunny Jacksonville, Florida, in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. So you got between the Cavs and the Tigers.
I know that Virginia's got that 19 by them, but man, they did not pass the eye test. This team, all they had to do was beat a 7-5 Duke team, and we would have watched them play against Texas A&M, and Texas A&M might still be playing, but they lost. And I think this is going to be the Ahmad Hardy show. Actually, 2 really good running backs in this game. I believe running back from Virginia's last name is Taylor. He's been pretty good. I think he won the ACC's running back of the year. So I expect a lot of ground and pound in this one. But ultimately, Missouri's got the best player on the field, so I'm going with the Tigers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Virginia down the stretch of the season, I mean, you only scored 9 points against Wake Forest, and then you lose to a 7-5 Duke team. We lost to UConn and Tulane. So enough being said, I mean, they couldn't even score that many points against a Duke defense that, has played okay, but Missouri's defense at times this season has really played well. At times they really, but like I mentioned, it feels pretty simple. Bo Pebuli's not going to be in this one. Just hand it off to your best player overall this season for you, Ahmad Hardy, and let Virginia stop you. I think this is going to be a close back and forth game. I think it is going to be a lower scoring game, like a 28-24 type of game. But I will go with the SEC team in Mizzou to cap off, a nice season. I think that, they would like to make the college football playoff, especially with the schedule that they had this season. But overall, I think it was a nice season for the Missouri Tigers. Chet also going with Mizzou. So all rolling with the SEC in the Gator Bowl. All right, now let's move on to our nightcap. This game doesn't kick off till 8:15. So this game is probably not going to end for LSU fans until midnight. So after you enjoy your Christmas festivities, LSU's back in a bowl game that they went last season against Baylor. So in 2025, they will spend to close out the year in Houston, Texas. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, obviously you have Houston. They won't have to. It's just, they could just stay there, stay at their homes and hotels. And then LSU, a big alumni base out there in Houston. So we do have LSU versus number 21 Houston. Like Wade mentioned earlier in the show, Houston is favored, probably for good note, but this is LSU gets to face off against an old folk at quarterback. Connor Weidman is the QB1 for the Houston Cougars. Houston team also led by former Tulane head coach in Willie Fritz. And Houston, you look at how the Big 12 shaped out. Obviously, BYU and Texas Tech was the front runners in that conference, but Houston sneakily won 9 games in that conference. So they did have some games where they probably should have won. LSU, on the other hand, I mean, disappointment overall. You started the season as a top 10 team, finished 7-5, fired Brian Kelly. Offense didn't score 25 points all season, so it only makes sense you probably scored 25 points in the bowl game, because why the hell not? But who you got in the Texas Bowl between LSU and Houston, and what could be like one of the bigger bowl game crowds of the whole entire bowl season?
Yeah, I'll say that. This is bowl games done right. I mean, I know it's kind of cliche. Houston stays in their hometown. The players don't really get a trip.
I mean, hell, we've seen South Florida do it all the time, and the 3,000 Tampa Bowls that they have down there.
That's true. LSU, I mean, they were here last year. Big alumni base in Houston. But, hey, you know what? If that's what it takes for bowl games to be alive and well, I'm here for it. I do expect it to be a pretty full crowd. I went to this game last year. It was great. Very lively, a lot of Baylor fans and LSU fans. So it's a good way for LSU to keep that Texas connection. I know that everybody's looking forward to next year already with Lane Kiffin, but let's give the seniors their dues and let this team ride it out. I think that there's just a lot of optimism surrounding the LSU program right now, and I think that's contagious. So I'm going to go with LSU as an upset here. I don't know a ton about Houston, but I have watched Connor Wagman play in the SEC, and he wasn't winning 9 games there. So I don't know. I think that I'm a little suspicious of this Houston team. I looked at their schedule. They beat up on the bottom of the conference. They had some nice wins against Arizona and Arizona State. But beyond that, I mean, they played Baylor. They played Colorado. They lost to West Virginia, who was second to last in the conference.
They were one of the worst teams in the conference.
So I think LSU can put it all together. And, hey, don't forget, this is kind of the audition for Michael Van Buren. I mean, he's got to show out or else he might be starting somewhere else next year.
Yeah, that's true, especially with LSU. Look at all these quarterbacks in the transfer portal. LSU is definitely going to be, even if Michael Van Buren does stay, if they get like a Sam Levitt or a DJ Lagway, then he might be out the door. But LSU losing Colin Hurley as well. LSU is, going to get 2 transfer portal quarterbacks, it feels like. But going back to this matchup, you do bring up Connor Weigman. He has been using his legs more than he did at Texas A&M and LSU, like we mentioned. On the defensive side, they have struggled. But he's not like Marcel Reed fast. I mean, they're dealing with it. It's nothing against you. I feel like this is just a Houston bash. Yeah, this is just like a Houston bash, but it's something against this Houston team. This offense is very powerful. The defense, too, has really been there. But LSU last year, they had to score, like 45 points to beat Baylor? That ain't happening again. This is going to be a defensive game. LSU's defense, even with Harold Perkins opting out, AJ Halsey not playing this game, LSU overall has a ton of talent on all 3 levels of the defense. So I think that Blake Baker's squad, especially on the defensive side, will be able to keep it up. It's just a matter of, can this LSU offense generate enough points to be the winner in this one? Overall, I will go with LSU. I mean, I'm not going to go against the SEC teams in the bowl games against, Houston, obviously a great story. But like you mentioned, they kind of bullied on some of the bottom feeders in the Big 12. But this will be a close defensive game, like a 24-21 game. Yes, I have LSU not scoring 25 again. They'll get 1 point short as they always done this season. But I will go with the purple and gold to get this one done. And Chet also going with LSU. So a clean sweep of the SEC in both for all bowl games. We will have more bowl games for next week's show. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our hot topics. A lot of news, really no questions that I have overall because really all the games are pretty much done for. But Georgia gives their AD, Josh Brooks, a contract extension as well as a raise. So as well, the Georgia athletic program has done. I mean, the baseball team went to the regionals last year. They did get knocked out by Oklahoma State. Basketball team continues to do well under Mike White. And then the football team obviously has been a powerhouse under Kirby Smart. So Josh Brooks, one of the best ADs in the business. So he is staying there in Athens. Next piece of news, I think that this was pretty much a give. It's not like Arch Manning was going to go anywhere. But Texas quarterback Arch Manning is returning for the 2026 season. I know it's an up-and-down roller coaster ride for Arch Manning. What do you expect heading into his, second overall season being the starting quarterback for this Longhorns offense?
Well, I think we got a glimpse of what it can be the last month of the season. I mean, he looked really good pretty much from that Vanderbilt game on, I would say. So I think everybody just jumped the gun on Arch Manning. They thought he was going to be the guy from start one, and maybe he would have been if they didn't play at Ohio State on the road to start his career. I mean, if he would have been able to get his feet wet against somebody else, maybe it was a confidence thing. But I mean, I think he really started to play well. I think this defense played well. So, Texas is not going anywhere. I think that they'll be right up there in the top 5 of the conference next year. And maybe some of that Arch Manning preseason hype will be subdued, but I think this time it'll be warranted because we've at least seen him do it. He's not just some brand new guy.
All right, let's go on now to some coordinator news. I also use this to just carry through all the offense coordinator and defensive coordinator changes that have happened in the past couple of weeks here. Chip Lindsey is leaving Michigan for a Missouri offense coordinator job. We also had Will Muschamp coming back to Texas to be their defensive coordinator. So that is definitely going to be a star-studded duo with Steve Sarkisian being the head coach and Will Muschamp. After a couple of years off from coaching, he is back with the Longhorns defense. We also saw Joe Sloan be hired by Will Stein to be their offense coordinator. Get ready, Kentucky fans, for 18,000 wide receiver screens the whole entire game. But Will Stein, I mean, I think he's going to be like, what the hell are you doing? Give me the keys to the car and I'll run my offense. But that is all our coordinator changes. We also have Bobby Petrino getting poached from Arkansas. Now he's going to Bill Belichick to be his offense coordinator. What the hell kind of story that will be?
Do they want to have that open investigation?
Yeah, I don't know. North Carolina, this might be, I don't know. I mean, honestly, they probably should just fire Bill Belichick after the season, but that's not me. All right, let's go on now to the final hot topics. We're not going to talk about every single player because we would be here for 4 hours talking about all the players that are heading into the portal. But I do want to get into some of the key players, a.k.a. the quarterbacks that have entered their name into the transfer portal. The big name that first put his name was DJ Lagway of Florida. And then earlier today, we did have Ashton Daniels, the quarterback of Auburn. Wouldn't be shocked at all if we also see Jackson Arnold. I think it's going to be the true freshman Deuce Knight leading the way. It would not shock me at all. Obviously, they're going to go transfer portal hunting, but I think that Alex Golesh feels pretty confident in the true freshman continuing to lead this offense heading into next season. Bo Pribula, another quarterback from Missouri, entering the transfer portal. So out of all those quarterback names, or is there any name that surprised you that you saw that's leaving their respective program heading somewhere else?
I don't think there were any major surprises. I do think it'll be interesting to see what kind of the next wave is after some of these bowl games.
Right.
I guess I was kind of surprised at how DJ Lagway left. I mean, I wouldn't have blamed him at all if he just wanted to leave on his own terms, but it did sound like he was interested in returning to the Gators and that it was more of Summerall and his new offensive staff not jiving with him. So I'm a little curious where that's coming from and what that's about. But who knows? I mean, that could just be a matter of preference. I think Florida's going to probably offer the in-state guy, Byron Brown, who just hit the portal for USF. So if Alex Golesh decides to go with Deuce Knight, as you say, I don't think he'll go follow his coach, but he might just go right up the road to Gainesville, where he won a football game this year.
Yeah, absolutely. But we did have some backup quarterbacks. Colin Hurley from LSU. I think that was about expected. I mean, he wasn't going to get any playing time.
He was already off the team.
Yeah, and he got into a car accident. He just didn't see the field. We did see Mississippi State's, third-string quarterback, Luke Croman-Hoke. He's in the transfer portal, as well as Jake Merklinger. I don't know for some reason, but Jake Merklinger on CFP 26 is just unstoppable force for Tennessee. So maybe somebody's going to get a hidden gem on him. We did have some defensive players and offensive players on all these SEC teams, but that is all of our key transfers. Like Wade mentioned, the portal does open on January 2nd. So I think with all these SEC teams bowl games coming up here in the next coming days, we will see more. But we will see. There's definitely going to be a lot of movement. I mean, especially since we're continuing shows into January, it feels like we're going to just get like a list of all these players going from point A to point B. So this is really where the 2026 season is going to start with with this January, transfer portal, because this is the only transfer window. They got rid of the spring portal. So this is it for all 136 FBS representatives. So this is definitely going to be a crucial time for all these new head coaches in the SEC, all these changes, especially with all these OCs and DCs and all these staff changes. So this is definitely going to be a crucial time for all these SEC programs. But that's going to be it for tonight's SEC Talk. We definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in both on Facebook and on YouTube. Didn't see any comments. We did get a thumbs up on YouTube, so I really appreciate you dropping your comment. and all the views that we are getting as well. Thank you for all the follows I've been getting over the past couple of days. I've been getting notification pretty much every single day on Facebook. So definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in, join the community. And that'll be it for this week's show. Next week, we will be back either on Sunday or Monday night, just depending on our schedules. But next week's show is definitely going to be a stacked one as we will continue previewing and picking our quarterfinal games of the college football playoff. And then we will also finish off the rest of the SEC bowl game slate. So with we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I know it's crazy to think that we're already here this month. This whole entire year it feels like has completely flown by. So hopefully everybody enjoys their time with family and friends. Wade, do you have any parting messages and some Christmas cheers to send off to our viewers?
Yeah, just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and enjoy your time with your family and catch some of this good football that we got coming our way. So we'll be ready to break it down. Like Tyler said, after Christmas, we'll talk about the New Year's Day slate, both the playoffs and our other SEC representatives. So yeah, y'all have a great Christmas, and we will see you right before the new year.
Yep, and my mom chiming in saying Merry Christmas to you and your family, Wade. Yep, enjoy the Christmas. Yep, enjoy the Christmas festivities. Hope you get all the gifts that you want. And we will be right back here next week talking about some more postseason action, both in the playoff as well as the rest of the bowl games. So enjoy the rest of your week. Have a happy holiday, and we'll see you back here next week right here on SEC Talk.